Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be covering some huge news that just dropped in the Diablo 4 patch notes. So I'm going to go through them, share with you guys what happened. There's some massive changes that are really going to improve this game, and I'm so excited to share these details with you. Now this patch just went live. It was a huge patch. It technically actually was more of a maintenance fix, but they included a ton of extra stuff. So the first part of this huge update is just a bunch of bug fixes. Now I'm not going to go through these because these are pretty minor and honestly were pretty rare, but it's great that they're fixing them. They fixed a ton of different bugs and gameplay issues, also some local like co-op issues that have been happening, and some AI and quest stuff. Now I want to jump right into the big stuff, the stuff that actually matters. Now obviously I would highly recommend go through and read through this. Do this. This will be linked in the description and in the comments. So just make sure check it out on your own. See what you like about this. So the big thing. So this is really exciting because this means that the devs are actually listening to the player base, because we have been begging for a lot of stuff on this list. So I'm so excited. So starting out, significantly increase the experience awarded for completing nightmare dungeons. Finally, this means that we no longer have to spam run normal dungeons. So what's been going on, if you haven't been following, anyone who's above about level 70 to leveling up, the best way to do it is just to spam the current loot dungeon. And what they've been doing is, the player base has found, the most highly dense elite packs in the dungeon, and they just do the dungeon that has the most elites, and they spam it on normal over and over and over again. It's super fast. You one-shot everything. You get a ton of XP. And so what the dev team has been doing is they've been going in and actually nerfing these dungeons. They've been taking out, the number of elites. They've been nerfing it, and overall just trying to reduce the loot cave aspect of these dungeons. Now, what they want people to do is do the nightmare dungeons. I mean, that is the end game content. That is what overall Blizzard wants us to do. But the problem with nightmare dungeons is while they did have a much higher drop rate for ancestrals and legendaries, the problem with them was the XP gain. For the time it takes to kill a nightmare dungeon, it was not worth it XP wise to do it on nightmare mode. It was easier to do it on normal and better XP. So what they've done is they've significantly increased nightmare dungeon XP, which is going to be so nice because that means it'll finally be worth it to farm nightmare dungeons, which means we don't have to farm the same dungeons. We aren't going to have to reset dungeons. We don't have to do any of the janky stuff, workaround stuff we were doing before to farm anymore. We can just go in and enjoy the dungeons we want to play. Not only did they increase the XP for completing it, they also increased the experience for the mobs actually in the dungeon. So currently, you actually didn't even complete the dungeon. You would go in, kill the packs of elites, and then you would leave. You wouldn't complete it because the completion bonus wasn't worth it. It was just the packs of elites. And so now with this new buff, we're going to be able to go in, farm nightmares, and just complete them. That's going to be probably the best way to get XP. And I'm very, very happy with this change. It is significantly going to change how the end game's played and how it's leveled up. And I think it's going to make it much more fun. Now, there's a few more changes that I did not expect. I expected this change coming into it because the community has been begging for it here recently. But the next one that I'm super happy about it and didn't expect is Helltide chests now provide substantially more bonus experience when open. Now, this is great because past level 85, you haven't really been needing to do Helltides. You need Helltides to get the crafting material that you can only get in Helltides. But besides that, there was no reason to do Helltides. No reason at all. Because you didn't hardly any XP because you're killing overworld mobs and the chest didn't give you anything. But now it'll have to do some testing to see how much XP you actually get, but at least you'll get some more XP for actually opening Helltide chests, and maybe that'll be a viable way to level up, as open world is much easier than dungeons. So like say you don't have a super strong build, you're not a very experienced player, but say you want to level up and you're at that end game level, instead of maybe doing nightmare dungeons on tier like 40 or 30, maybe you can do Helltide chests and still get a decent amount of XP. I still suspect it'll be much lower than nightmare dungeons, but hopefully it's not too bad. I'm pretty excited to test in that and try it out. Now, next up, which is another one that I didn't expect, but I'm super happy, and it also makes sense, is significantly increased rewarded experience for completing individual whispers across the board. This is a great change. Right now, if you've been doing whispers, I really only did from that right around 45 to 60 range, just until you're starting to get into nightmare dungeons and get into, other later stuff in the content. If you notice, I just did whispers kind of as a byproduct as I was farming stuff. and you didn't get any XP from it. I mean, I think at level like 55, it takes about 2 million XP to level up. And 10 whispers, after completing the 10 and getting the bonus, was only giving you about 108,000 XP. Like, and it just wasn't really worth it to farm whispers. I was just doing whispers as a side thing. Like, you know, I would run around getting, you know, doing dungeons. And if the dungeon was a whisper dungeon, that was just a bonus. It wasn't something that I looked for or tried to do. It just happened. But maybe now actually it could be worth it in that mid end game range to actually do whispers to get you to, you know, world tier 4. That could be hopefully a really good change that I hope is a substantial increase in XP, because it definitely needs it. And finally, we have fixed an issue where no experience was awarded for completing the holdout style event that occurred in the finishing dungeon objectives. Now this, to my knowledge, wasn't super common. I don't think it happened to me very often, maybe just once or twice. But I mean, it's obviously a great change. Anything that, you know, is an issue where it's not giving you experience when it's supposed to is bad. Glad they fixed it. Then we had some general updates. Let's get into these. The Helltide roaming bosses will now more consistently drop higher quality loot. So if you've done Helltides, they're just random Helltide bosses. They have a title, they'll drop down, and you kill them. They're supposed to give you better loot because they're a little bit tougher than a normal mob, but honestly, about the same difficulty as an elite in a dungeon. So they're not super hard. Usually you can kill them really, really fast with no problems. But now they're supposed to drop higher quality loot, which is great. More loot, better, you know, easier to get your build. Overall, it's just better. Players can now teleport to their nightmare dungeon directly through the map. This is amazing. So this basically is going to ensure that people are doing nightmares and not farming regular dungeons anymore, because there's no need to be in a party to reset and do the exploit of resetting the dungeon over and over again, because now you pop your nightmare sigil, you teleport in, and you're good to go. You never have to reset that nightmare dungeon. You just, as soon as you're done with it, you pop your next one. And it's just a continual loop of new dungeons, so you're not getting burned out, and it's honestly so glad they did this. And then we have weekly bonus caches from world bosses no longer have a level requirement for opening. This is great. So what was happening is sometimes when you were killing a world boss, and say you were a lot lower level than the other people doing the world boss, and you're kind of there just to like skim some XP, which isn't a bad thing. It's totally not a bad thing at all. You might not have been doing as much as the other people, but you still have the right to do the world boss. Sometimes you couldn't open the chest. It'd be locked. So that's honestly a great change. All right, and now we get into the balance changes. Now this is going to be interesting to see how it all works out. I think a lot of builds are going to change. A lot of stuff's going to change. Now this, I know everybody was worried about nerfs. This is not nerfs. This is buffs. So this is different. This is going to dramatically change how the game's played, what classes are top, what's the meta, what's going on. Because what they did is they took the skills that weren't being used, you know, those skills that weren't very impactful in the game right now, even though they were super cool. There were some skills that sounded absolutely so cool to use, but you couldn't use them because they just weren't strong compared to the other abilities. I mean, some of their other abilities in the same part of the tree were doing 2 to 3 times more. And so it just wasn't worth it to use them at all. So what they've done through is they've went through and they've tweaked them to kind of match them with the skills that were being used a lot. And every class had a bunch of these all across their skill tree. And so hopefully now you can have more flexibility in your builds and play what you want. So let's dive right into Barbarian. Now I know a lot of Barbarians were absolutely terrified their build was going to get destroyed with nerfs because Barbarian is super strong in mid to early endgame. Now they are struggling actually in the late endgame, especially in the Uber Lilith fight, but they didn't get destroyed at all. Hopefully there's gonna be some new builds. You won't just seeing one Barbarian build for everybody. So that'll be nice. Now, all right, just started with Barbarian. Let's talk about, so Lunging Strike. We got a straight buff on this damage, a straight 3% damage increase and a Fury generation increase. Honestly, I looked through all of these. There's not a single nerf on this page. All of these are buffs. Huge buffs to skills that just aren't used. Like, look at this Bounding Storm. 75% to 112%. That change is absolutely insane. And some of these skills are going definitely a lot of builds are going to change. Builds that you see are going to change, all of them. Like, as you can see, this is just Barbarian. I mean, look at all of these damage increases, just flat damage increase. So basically they just straight took the lowest performing skills and bumped them up. So we're going to see much more fluidity in the builds. And like, obviously, I'm not an expert in all these classes. The only one I would say I'm fairly competent in is Sorcerer and maybe Rogue. That is it. I haven't delved into Necromancer, Druid, or any of them yet. Now I'll go more in depth on the Sorcerer. But these, it's just straight damage increases. And obviously, you should check these out for your own class, do just a little bit of build crafting, have fun with it, try some new builds. I mean, this is the perfect time. We're about a month out from season 1, sorry, excuse me. And if you haven't started preparing for season 1, make sure you go check the video I posted yesterday. They'll help you prepare for season 1, everything you can do, because you can actually start now. Now let's actually dive into the Sorcerer, which is the one we're going to talk about the most, because that is what I mained in preseason. So let's get up to the top here. All right, so Spark. Spark was a skill that no one used because it sucked. It was so bad. There's really no reason to use it. On most sorcerers, the basic skill isn't used at all. And with this, maybe it could be used as a mana generator. I definitely think Spark could be, with these buffs, probably the best basic skill as a mana generator until you get your legendaries and your aspects. This change specifically is going to have much more of an effect early to mid game and not late game. But still, it's a strong buff on it. A straight increase of 2% damage. I mean, honestly, just buffs all across the board. It has 3 buffs just for Spark alone, because they buffed every single upgrade of Spark. Now, Frostbolt, another straight damage increased. Firebolt. This is huge because every sorcerer build uses Firebolt as their enchantment slot. So the burning damage it's just going to make everyone stronger. It's honestly going to be a great, sorcerers are going to be a little bit stronger. Charged Bolt, which honestly is a very strong skill already. I know the Frostbolt build right now is the most common, which also got a 3% damage buff. So even the top build got buffed, which is kind of crazy. But Charged Bolt was super strong before this, the second most powerful sorcerer build, and now got buffed again. So maybe it can, keep up with Frostbolt a little bit more. We'll have to see. Incinerate. I'm glad to be seeing some fire skills getting buffed, because fire basically has no place in the sorcerer endgame right now. Like, basically the only fire skill you use is right up here at the top, Firebolt. That's it. And you don't actually even put it on your bar. You put it as your enchantment slot, and that's it. That's the only fire. Some people use Flame Shield for reduced mana consumption, but once you get legendaries, that's useless because you have permanent mana. And so fire really, it was really strong in the betas, and then they nerfed it, especially the Hydra build. But hopefully now it'll have a spot. And I mean, just huge increases from all of these, like mana cost decrease, a bunch of frozen skills, which are great because right now Blizzard was really bad. So was Ice Blades. A lot of the frozen stuff was bad. The only one that was good really was Frostbolt. Frostbolt, you would, jump in, freeze everything, Frostbolt the whole group down. That's kind of the main build right now for just going, super top level. But it's kind of crazy, all these changes. Like, I can't wait to get into the game and actually try some of these new builds out. I'm probably going to be broke after this patch because I'm trying so many new builds, but I just can't wait. And not only did they buff skills, but they buffed legendary aspects. So from my understanding, they took the legendary aspects that mainly affected these skills that weren't being used. And what they did is they actually went in and found these aspects and gave them buffs as well to help, match and craft those aspects together. Because right now the best builds fit really well with their aspects, and the aspects are what really make them strong. And the dev team knows that. They designed it on purpose. So they want to go in and not just tweak the skills, but actually go in and tweak the aspects that are actually making them strong. So that is going to wrap it up for this huge update. I'm so excited that they did, and I am so glad that Blizzard is actually listening to the community's comments. And I'm going to keep you guys updated on everything Diablo news. And I'm so excited to dive in and try some new builds. And hopefully we'll have some new build guides out, some stuff that is just not the meta builds, and some new stuff that we can actually bring into Season 1. So with that, I'll see you guys later. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe for future Diablo 4 content. And check me out live on Twitch at twitch.tv/MouseFury. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.